Have you ever noticed that when a relationship ends, there's always something that doesn't quite add up? Your partner says one thing, but you feel there's something deeper, something they don't even fully understand themselves. Today, you're going to discover the 5 real psychological reasons why relationships fail, and more importantly, how to prevent this from happening to you again. Because the truth is, most breakups don't happen for the obvious reasons we're told. Imagine for a moment that you could see relationships like a psychologist does, that you could understand not just what people say, but what's really happening in their inner world. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists in history, dedicated his life to deciphering these mysteries of human behavior. And what he discovered about relationships will change your perspective forever. Because here's the brutal reality. Most people don't know why their relationships really end. They think it's because of arguments, distance, differences. But those are just surface excuses. The real reasons are buried in places we didn't even know existed. Are you ready to face the truth? Because once you understand what's really happening, you won't just be able to save your current relationship, you'll never be the same person in love again. And if it's already too late for this relationship, at least you'll understand what really happened, and that will give you the power to create something completely different next time. The first reason your partner pulls away from you is something Jung called the loss of the shadow. But let me explain this in simple terms, because it's more powerful than you imagine. When you first met your partner, you were probably a more complete version of yourself. You had your own interests, your own opinions, even your own flaws that you didn't hide. You were unpredictable in a certain way. You had what Jung called psychological substance. But something changed, didn't it? Little by little, without realizing it, you started molding your personality to fit perfectly with what you thought your partner wanted. If they didn't like it when you complained, you stopped expressing your frustration. If they preferred you to be more social, you forced your extroversion. If they wanted you to be more independent, you pretended not to need their attention. And gradually, you became a domesticated version of yourself. Jung understood that we all have a shadow, those parts of ourselves we consider unacceptable, but that are absolutely essential to our completeness. When you suppress your shadow to maintain a relationship, you become predictable, flat, boring. And something in your partner begins to feel like they're in a relationship with an edited version of you, not your true self. Has your partner ever told you that you're no longer the same person they fell in love with? It's not a coincidence. It's because you literally aren't that person anymore. You've become too safe, too accommodating, too available. And paradoxically, by trying to be perfect for them, you lost exactly what attracted them in the first place. Here's an exercise that can change everything. This week, express an opinion you would normally keep to maintain peace. Not something destructive, but something authentic. Watch how your partner reacts. If they feel threatened by your authenticity, that tells you everything you need to know about the power dynamic in your relationship. If they feel intrigued or even attracted to your honesty, you've just reclaimed a piece of your personal power. Attraction doesn't come from perfection. It comes from authenticity, even when that authenticity includes imperfections. And if you want someone to stay interested in you long-term, you need to stay interesting to yourself first. But that leads us to something even deeper, and we'll talk about that in the next point. The second reason is what Jung identified as emotional dependency disguised as love. And this is going to hurt, but you need to hear it. You think you love your partner, but what if I told you that what you feel might not be true love, but a sophisticated form of need? Jung distinguished between mature love and what he called emotional projection. In simple terms, we often don't fall in love with the real person, but with how that person makes us feel about ourselves. Does your partner make you feel complete? Without them, do you feel lost, anxious, empty? Do you need their constant validation to feel valuable? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then your relationship is built on dependency, not love. And dependency eventually becomes suffocating. Think about it this way. When you emotionally depend on someone, you unconsciously make them responsible for your emotional well-being. Every time they're in a bad mood, you go into crisis. Every time they don't give you the attention you need, you interpret it as rejection. Every time they have their own problems, you take it personally. Your partner can feel this pressure even if you never verbalize it. They can feel like they're not in a relationship with you, but that they're being used as an emotional drug. And that's exhausting. It's like they constantly have to carry the weight of your emotional stability on top of their own. Jung said that true love is only possible between two people who are complete within themselves. Two people who choose each other from abundance, not from lack. When you love from dependency, you're actually asking the other person to fill a void that only you can fill. How do you know if you're in this dynamic? Ask yourself, could you be genuinely happy if your partner disappeared tomorrow? I'm not talking about not missing them or not being sad. I'm talking about whether your identity, your inner peace, and your sense of purpose would survive intact. If you can't honestly answer yes, then you're in a dependent relationship. Here's the transformative exercise. Spend a full week without asking your partner for emotional validation of any kind. Don't seek their approval for your decisions. Don't need them to calm you when you're anxious. Don't require them to make you feel better when you're having a bad day. Instead, practice being your own source of emotional stability. Repeat this phrase every morning. I am complete within myself, and from this completeness I choose to love. At first it will feel false, but gradually you'll begin to experience the difference between loving from need and loving from choice. And when you love from choice, something magical happens. You become irresistible. Because people can feel the difference between someone who needs them and someone who chooses them. And everyone prefers to be chosen. But there's a third reason that's even more subtle, and it's possibly the most destructive of all. The third reason your partner pulls away is what Jung called the loss of individuation. In simple words, you became too similar to them, and they lost the sense of adventure with you. Do you remember when your relationship was new? There was mystery, discovery, the excitement of getting to know someone different from you. Their opinions challenged you. Their tastes expanded your world. Their differences created a natural, erotic tension. But little by little, something changed. You started adopting their taste in music. You began watching only the movies they liked. Gradually, your social circles merged completely. Your conversations became predictable because you already knew exactly what they thought about everything. You became an echo of them, and they became an echo of you. Jung understood that sustained attraction requires what he called tension of opposites. You need to be similar enough to connect, but different enough to maintain curiosity. When two people become too identical, the relationship loses its vital spark. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. We're programmed to seek genetic and experiential diversity. Someone who is identical to us doesn't offer us growth, challenge, or expansion. They don't help us evolve. And while we might consciously value harmony, unconsciously we begin to feel stagnant. Does your partner tell you they feel bored in the relationship, that there are no more surprises, that they feel like they're living with a roommate instead of a lover? These aren't superficial complaints. They're symptoms of a slow death of polarity. Individuation, for Jung, was the process of becoming who you really are, not a copy of someone else. And a healthy relationship should support both people's individuation, not suppress it. When you suppress your individuality to maintain harmony, you paradoxically destroy exactly what keeps a relationship alive. Here's the challenge. This week, do something your partner wouldn't expect from you. Take a class they wouldn't take with you. Develop an opinion about something you've never discussed. Reconnect with an aspect of yourself you've let sleep during the relationship. I'm not talking about behaving destructively or irresponsibly. I'm talking about remembering who you were before your identity completely merged with theirs. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But the key is that each person must maintain their unique chemical substance. If you dilute completely into the mixture, there's no transformation possible, only dissolution. Keep your edge, keep your mystery, keep parts of yourself that are yours alone. Not to be selfish, but to have something valuable to offer, because no one can completely love what they completely know, and no one can desire what they already totally possess." But wait, because the fourth reason is possibly the most painful to admit. The fourth reason is what Jung identified as projection of the unrecognized shadow. And this is going to revolutionize how you understand all your relationship conflicts. Have you noticed that the things that most annoy you about your partner are always the same ones? That you always end up fighting about the same patterns, the same dynamics, the same frustrations? Jung discovered something revolutionary. What most irritates us about others is usually a reflection of something we can't see in ourselves. Your partner is lazy and that drives you crazy? Ask yourself where your own hidden laziness is. Your partner is too controlling and you feel suffocated? Explore where you also need to control, but in more subtle ways. Your partner is emotionally distant and that hurts you. Investigate where you also disconnect when things get difficult. Here's the brutal part. Your partner isn't pulling away just because of their own issues. They're pulling away because they unconsciously feel they're being used as a mirror for parts of you that you refuse to face. Every time you criticize them, judge them, or blame them for something, a part of them feels they're being attacked for flaws that also exist in you. Jung explained it like this: everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. But most people use relationships to avoid self-knowledge, not to deepen it. They use their partner as a scapegoat for everything they don't want to see about themselves. Does your partner tell you that you always make them feel bad about themselves? That nothing they do is enough? That you always find something to criticize? It's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're projecting your own internal self-criticism onto them. Imagine living with someone who constantly points out your flaws, but who can never see their own. Who makes you responsible for all the relationship's problems, but who victimizes themselves when you point out their patterns. How long could you tolerate that dynamic before wanting to escape? Here's the exercise that can save your relationship. For the next 7 days, every time you feel the impulse to criticize or correct your partner, stop and ask yourself, where is this same quality in me? Not to justify their behavior, but to understand your reaction. If your partner is late and that infuriates you, ask yourself, where in your life do you not respect others' time, even if in different ways? If your partner doesn't listen to you and that frustrates you, ask yourself, when was the last time you really listened to your partner without preparing your response? Jung said, one who looks outside dreams, one who looks inside awakens. As long as you keep looking outside, blaming your partner for all the relationship's problems, you'll be living in a dream. But when you begin to look inside at your own patterns, at your own shadow, that's when you can really create change. And when you stop projecting your shadow onto your partner, something incredible happens. They stop feeling the need to constantly defend themselves from your judgments. They feel safe to be vulnerable with you again. And that vulnerability is where intimacy is reborn. But the fifth reason is the deepest of all, and if you understand it, you'll never have to wonder why relationships fail again. The fifth and final reason your partner pulls away is what Jung called resistance to mutual growth. And this is the difference between relationships that last decades and those that slowly die. Have you noticed that at the beginning of your relationship, You were both changing, growing, challenging each other to be better versions of yourselves. There was an energy of evolution, of possibility, of expansion. But gradually, something changed. One or both of you began to resist the other's growth. Jung understood that human beings have two fundamental impulses, the impulse toward security and the impulse toward growth. In young relationships, growth is exciting, but as the relationship becomes established, many people prioritize security above everything else, and that's where the slow death begins. Your partner wants to take risks in their career, but you want financial stability. Your partner is exploring new interests, but you want them to stay the same. Your partner is challenging old beliefs, but you feel threatened by their evolution. Or vice versa. One of you wants to grow and the other wants things to stay exactly as they are. But here's the brutal truth. When you try to keep your partner in a static version of themselves, you're unconsciously sending them the message that you love them conditionally. You love them only as long as they remain within parameters that make you feel comfortable. And that's not love. That's control disguised as love. Does your partner tell you they feel stagnant? That they feel they've stopped growing since being with you? That they feel you're afraid of who they might become? These are alarm signals that the relationship has become a golden prison for one or both of you. Jung said that a truly mature relationship is one where both people support each other to become their most authentic and complete versions, even if that means the relationship itself will have to evolve, even if that means going through periods of uncertainty. People who are genuinely secure in themselves don't fear their partner's growth. In fact, they celebrate it. They know that a person who is growing and evolving is a person who will continue to be interesting, challenging, and attractive long-term. They know that a person who is stagnant eventually becomes resentful and boring. How can you tell if you're resisting your partner's growth? Ask yourself, when your partner tells you about new dreams or aspirations, is your first reaction support or fear? When they want to try something new, do you encourage them or find reasons why they shouldn't do it? When they're changing in ways you don't completely understand, do you feel curious or threatened? Here's the final and most powerful exercise. This week, identify one specific way your partner wants to grow or change, something you may have been resisting. And instead of finding reasons why they shouldn't do it, find an active way to support that growth. Maybe they want to go back to school, but you're afraid of how that will affect your time together. Instead of sabotaging their enthusiasm, help them create a plan that works for both of you. Maybe they're questioning beliefs you've shared, but you feel threatened by their spiritual or philosophical evolution. Instead of turning their doubts into a battle, explore those questions together with them. Jung understood that true love isn't possessive, it's liberating. It doesn't seek to keep the other person in a fixed state, but supports them to become who they're truly meant to be. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to control your partner's evolution, when you free them to grow, they often choose to grow with you, not away from you. But if they choose to grow away from you, then at least you'll know you love them enough to allow them to be free. And that's a form of love that transcends possession. Now, after everything we've explored, I want you to understand something fundamental. Your partner doesn't pull away because you're incompatible, or because destiny is against you, or because love isn't enough. Your partner pulls away because the dynamic between you has become toxic to the growth, authenticity, and individuality of one or both of you. But here's the hope. All of this can be changed. Each of these patterns can be transformed if both of you are willing to do the necessary inner work. The question is, are you willing to look in the mirror with the same intensity you've been looking at your partner? Are you willing to reclaim your authenticity, even if it means temporary discomfort? Are you willing to work on your emotional completeness, even if it means facing your own voids? Are you willing to maintain your individuality, even if it means less superficial harmony? Are you willing to face your own shadow, even if it means recognizing you're not the innocent victim in this story? Are you willing to support your partner's growth, even if it means confronting your own fears of change? If you can answer yes to these questions, then there's hope. Not just for this relationship, but for you to become the kind of person who can create and maintain true love for a lifetime. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, is the most important work you can do in this life. And relationships are one of the most powerful laboratories for that work, if you have the courage to use them that way. So here's my final challenge for you. If this message resonated with you, if you recognized any of these patterns in your own relationship, write in the comments, "I choose to grow." Because transformation always begins with a conscious choice. And if you're ready to dive even deeper into Jung's work and how to apply it to your love life, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Every week, we share deep psychological insights that can transform not just your relationships, but your entire life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, because true love isn't just a feeling, it's a skill that can be learned. And now you have the tools to begin.